Hey, Damon, happy Monday, brother. How are you, dude?
I'm doing great, Kurt. Did you have a good weekend?
Oh, my goodness gracious. If it was any better, you would have had to call 911, man. It was just absolutely magnificent. Dude, you have like a glow. Like you got this wonderful summer look to you. Just you wear summer.
I've been outside a little bit.
You wear summer really well. You know that? So just, hey, I caught a baseball game the other night. What more could you ask for? But you know what? Dude, are you sitting down for this one? We have a powerhouse panel discussion here today. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Oh,
I hope you got some rest because here we go. Okay. We have my dear friend Rob Newbold. Rob, how are you, my friend? Happy Monday. How are things going?
Same. I mean, fantastic weekend. We avoided the storms here in Denver and got to be outside a lot. So it was great.
Okay, so you know what, Damon, do you remember Chris Berman on ESPN? He would do the name thing with people. Like he always had those fun, catchy names, So my friend Rob, I had the honor and privilege. I've met Rob in person, and so just a great dude. He's just as handsome in person as he is here today, virtually. Newbold. So when I was in college, Damon, remember I had a 2.3 in college, I think I was the best 2.3 student around, just unless you got a 2.4. But I was, why I had a 2.3? I used to watch the show called The Bold and the Beautiful. My roommates and I would come back for lunch every day. Yep. So Rob, Newbold and the Beautiful is here on stage with us. So
thank you, Kurt.
I just want to make that little connection. Now, Rob, you know what they call my wife and I? We're not the bold and the beautiful. It's the bald and the beautiful. I just want to let you know that. So anyway, Jennifer, happy Monday, Jennifer. And I've been practicing all week. Hagan-Dier. Jennifer Hagan-Dier. How was that one for you?
That was fabulous. That was fabulous. People have known me 20 years who still can't pronounce my name. So
I've been practicing all day. Actually, I just found out a few minutes ago. But anyway, because when I first saw Hagan-Dier, Damon, I was thinking, ice cream was the first thing that came to mind. So, Jennifer, like I said before we went live, is just better than a nice ice cream cone. So, boy, this is going to be just a tasty treat today. Conversation. I can't wait. So, Jennifer, I'm coming right back at you. Damon, you know what? I might as well go old school, go back with our original.
Let's just do it.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, Jennifer, little girl, where did you grow up? What state did you grow up in?
Oh, in Tennessee, Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Tennessee, wonderful state of Tennessee. When you were a little girl growing up, now Rob, I'm going to have a different question for you, Rob. But Jennifer, when you were a little girl growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little girl growing up in Tennessee?
He was my hero. Well, I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, but that wasn't my hero. But that was my goal.
That was your goal. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's please share. Let's hear more.
No, I think in fourth grade, I proclaimed I was going to Harvard Law School, which I didn't do. But my dad was on board with that. And I really thought being a Supreme Court justice would be the best because they can't fire you. They'd have to kill you. So now today, in today's world, I look at that and kind of think,
yeah, you got to wonder.
Not the best setup.
But
I think it was really my dad.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, my dad is, I am who I am today because of both of my parents. But my father made it very clear that if I didn't want to run the construction company that he ran, which meant working outside from May to October every year, which I did every summer from 14 to 22. I worked outside on a construction site. Made it very clear that to not do that, I had to go to college. And then I went to law school, so I could never have to be outside in the summer again in Tennessee.
Well, that is as proud girl dads that Damon and I are. That's one of our favorite answers. And Dad's name, please.
Oh, well, his name is Sam Hagan.
Sam Hagan. Perfect.
Yeah, Sam Hagan. Okay. He took over his father's company. My grandfather he was 13 when he quit school, Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and started his construction business. My father took it over, and then now I look back and see how much money women can make in construction, and maybe I picked the wrong choice.
Yeah, maybe. So, all right. Well, that's a whole nother discussion. But hey, thank you. Big shout out to Sam and so for creating this powerhouse, and thank you for sharing that story. We're going to dig deep into Damon. That's most people find that path. You go to law school, and then end up in manufacturing, right? That's what most people do. So we're going to get into that little path there. Rob, I'm coming at you, my friend. Little different question. I'm going to spin it a little bit. So you're a little guy growing up, and I believe you're great state of Illinois. Do I have that correct? You're an Illinois guy through and through, even though you've made a little transition.
Right.
You're a little guy growing up. Who was your hero?
My hero was my grandfather.
Nice.
My grandfather, on my mother's side, Jack Johnson, owned an Alice Chalmers dealership in a little town in southeastern Illinois. He was also had been the sheriff, and he was, at the time that I was a little guy, he was the fire commissioner. So I got to ride on the fire truck in the Labor Day parades every year and blow the horn. So he was a fantastic guy.
Jack. Nice. All right. So big shout out to Grandpa Jack, and what a big inspiration, and really leaves that footprint as a little guy, right? You just probably worshiped and looked up to him, and probably the whole community was looking up to Jack Johnson.
Absolutely.
So that was wonderful.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So I got one quick thing, Jennifer. Please. I just looked up where Clarksburg was at because it sounded very familiar to me. And I lived just outside of Parker's Crossroads for 7 years.
Oh, it was Lawrenceburg.
Larkspur. Oh, I thought you said Clarksburg.
Lawrence.
Oh,
yeah, Lawrence.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Like, oh my goodness, I'm like, that's like 5 miles from where I live. But thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying.
And Damon, we can get, and you have a great track record in Tennessee. So we'll dig in. So guys, happy Monday. Hey, we've got Whitney Houston is actually coming to us from Wisconsin today. So
yeah,
Whitney, happy Monday to you. She's up in Wisconsin. I saw that you're hanging out with Megan and Katie. You got Diane Byer, dear friend of the MEP Network. And so all right, speaking of MEP, so we've got Jennifer, our friend, with us. We've got Rob, and they are with Manufacturer's Edge. So if you are a manufacturer and you are looking to gain an edge, this is the program for you today. So let's slide in here. Next question. Manufacturer's Edge, MEP Network. Who wants to grab that? What is the MEP Network? Jennifer, do you want to kick things off first? And then I'm going to slide over to my friend Rob.
Yeah, so I can cover the MEP Network. So the MEP Network is essentially all of the 51 MEP centers, as well as NIST MEP, our federal partner, and all of our stakeholders. So that would also include our manufacturers, state agencies. And it's really the connection between really to benefit all manufacturers. So small and mediums, NIST MEP was created by Congress 30 some odd years ago. And you've heard this story before, but statutorily to bring technologies out of the universities and federal labs to deploy them through the small, medium-sized manufacturers in the country. That is historically not what we've done. And I would say up until Carol Thomas, but Phil Singerman, we weren't really a network. We were a lot of little MEP centers, and NIST MEP was kind of our parent. I kind of use this analogy one time at the campus. You were our parent, we were the teenagers, and you would give us money, and we would say, great, leave us alone. We'll spend our money, and we'll tell you if we need something. The network, though, has transitioned and evolved into a collaborative, truly a cooperative agreement. And you can see that in the work we did during COVID, I think really was where that connective tissue got pretty strong because we were all scrambling and we were doing it together. And then NIST MEP stepped into that space. And now with Pravina, our new director, she comes in fresh and is like, we're going to work this. And so the supply chain funding we just received really shows her commitment to working as a network. And I think the beauty of it too, is it gives what Rob and I say is to our team is find us a problem we can't find a resource to help you with.
Right. Yeah.
And we haven't done it yet because we can call New York or we can call Maine or we can call California or, New Mexico, anywhere and find someone. So if you have NQA1 you need, we'll find somebody. If we don't have them in Colorado, we'll find them from somewhere else.
Well, all right. I love that. We're digging in. If you're just joining us, we've got Jennifer here. And Jennifer, you are the Vice President and COO. You have a long history of working with the MEP Network. I'm going to dig into that in 1 second. Rob, let's come over to you. You are with Manufacturer's Edge, the Colorado version of the MEP, if I'm saying that correctly. Yep. Just share a little bit about Manufacturer's Edge. I know you just made a transition yourself with you and your family, but what's going on at Manufacturer's Edge?
Yeah, so for 8 years, I was with the Illinois version of Manufacturer's Edge called IMEC. And about a year and a half ago, I made the jump over. I tell people my family left me. All of my sisters and my sons all moved to Arizona. And so we followed them partway and stayed here in Colorado. So Manufacturer's Edge is a really organization that's built on trying to strengthen and grow the manufacturing ecosystem in Colorado. And so we work collaboratively with partners like the World Trade Center, with Jefferson County, which is one of the biggest counties for their EDC, with Denver and the metro area there, as well as across the state, to bring high quality consulting, training, and coaching services to manufacturers so that they can stay here and grow here.
Yeah. Okay, great. I love it. So now I want to dig in a little bit on your backgrounds. And the great thing is, Damon, we've interviewed, I think we're pushing like 40 or 50 different folks from the MEP network. And we are consistently blown away by background, experience, and I'm going to say most importantly, but like passion is the common thread of no matter what MEP that we talk to, work with, is folks are just so passionate helping manufacturers. Jennifer, let's go here. So we heard about Sam, your hero, law school. Your dream was being a Supreme Court justice. Now that was a perfect path to go into manufacturing. Can you please, like, somebody called an audible amongst your career. Now, though you grew up,
how's that work?
Your hero was in construction. You were looking forward to being a Supreme Court justice. Went to law school. Worked at a law firm. I saw. Worked for a judge, and then you were the director of the Tennessee MEP. You worked for NIST, the MEP Center itself, and now you're the COO of Manufacturer's Edge. Can you please fill in a few gaps here? What called your services, your expertise, your passion to manufacturing? How did this happen?
So to me, it's the true economic development driver, right? So it's serving people and companies and for the country. As a daughter I was the first person in my family, first woman to go to college and graduate. First person in grad school in my family, right? Nice. That's not required of everyone, and I know that. I think having a voice for manufacturing has been, it was easy because I can see something being made. I can see there's a tangible thing you can touch. We provide the services, but we're actually seeing a difference in someone's life. When I interviewed for the Tennessee MEP director position, I had known the folks at the leadership level there in economic development for years. I had worked under Governor Bredesen as an assistant commissioner of revenue and economic development, and I'd known them, but I had no idea what MEP was.
Right.
And that was a problem. So when I interviewed for the job, I said to them, you have a problem. You have an awareness problem. I've worked in economic development for 10 years and no one knows you're here. And my career has been a jungle gym, not a ladder. and so I had never worked with an MEP before when I took that job. Yeah. I'd not worked at a manufacturing facility when I took that job, but I had worked in economic development. I had worked with manufacturers, Volkswagen, Nissan, automotive in Tennessee. Yeah, and so it made sense. And I was the first non-engineer to have that role, which I think engineers are a lot different than lawyers. And so it was interesting, but it's been great. In fact, this is the first job I've had where I didn't leave that job to go to a different career, right? I had gone from accounting firm and law firm and federal government, state government, but this time I stayed within the MEP National Network, and that speaks a lot about how much fun we have.
Awesome.
Well, it says a lot that you come new into this, and then all of a sudden you're the director. I mean, that's like so. And I'm just peeking. I'm going a little bit off script here for myself. Just what was that like? Like first day, first week, first month. Like you're kind of digging into this world of manufacturing. This MEP. You're dealing with engineers and continuous improvement and like lean and like all this goofy, all this goofy manufacturing language. What was that like your early days?
It was intense. Like the first 3 months, I think Rob and I have the similar perspective coming into Manufacturer's Edge is you really need to get to know the team that you're going to be working with. And so I spent the first 3 months interviewing every single person that worked in our organization. Nice. What do you like about your job? Would you change about what you do? What do we need to do better? right? And then, but I had the opportunity because I came in 2013, and Phil Singerman started to do the recompete in 2014. So I got to write the proposal for Tennessee MEP, and I got to write it and reorg the organization as I would like it to function in the future. So it was a really great time to join an organization like that and have the ability to kind of, Rob and I both like to create things and build things. And so we had that opportunity to do that there.
Well, I love that. Okay. So now, Rob, my friend, I want to slide over to you. So now I did a little a little digging into your background. And so I see Dad. Do I have this right? Did your dad go to Colorado University? Do I have that correct?
He did. He went to UC Boulder. He got his administrative teaching degree. So he went from being a music teacher to becoming a principal, and then eventually a superintendent.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. So so your roots are a little bit in Boulder. Man, my family, we just did a little vacation last year in Boulder. What a magnificent place that is. Now, you, if I'm not mistaken, little kind of both sides of the coin, you were a client of the MEP. And I think you have a little fascinating background, and you were in the medical device world. And I think it looked like the MEP might have helped you. Can you describe that situation? How did you find out about the MEP, and what was your relationship from a medical device manufacturer?
Yeah, so we worked for a small company that made medical devices. Our client classified them as medical devices, and our company had been through 2 audits from our client prior to me joining, where they basically failed 0 out of 100 in their audit scores for quality.
Hey, Rob, at least they were consistent, right?
They were consistent at doing nothing. That's right. So the president of the company was a really good friend of mine, and he said, I need you to come over and figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I got hired on the day of the second 0 audit. And by that time, he knew about the MEP, so he had somebody that was on contract, but they had not been using them. So I immediately reached out to the MEP person, the quality person, and said, I can't do this without you. What's our plan for the next 9 to 12 months? Because we're going to lose this $3 million client if we don't make a change. And so they worked hand in hand with me to help me create an ISO program, to build the training for it, to really create the full program. We went from a 0 out of 100 for 2 audits to the 3rd audit about 9 months later, 88 out of 100.
Did you really?
And so we were able to retain
that's
that
crazy
$1
cool
million in business at that manufacturing company and grow it over the next 2 years. And it really was because of the MEP. And in fact, the program worked so well that it gave an opportunity for my friend who owned the company to sell it and make a nice profit himself. And then I reached out to the MEP and said, I really liked what you did. Do you have a space for somebody new? And they said, we do. So I was able to work with Illinois MEP for about 8 years, both as a regional director for about 5 years. And then I managed all of our regional directors the last 3 years I was there on the leadership team. So it was a great experience.
Well, that's fantastic.
Very cool.
And I know you're director of client services, but it looked like you might even change the title to client success, right?
So new change, new title, VP of client success. Just happened in the last month or so. So I now manage both our business development team here in Colorado, as well as our delivery side. So all of our outside contractors that we utilize to help deliver our services, they're under my management as well.
Well, I love that. And, you piqued my curiosity, Damon. I know being an operations guy, you're inquiring minds need to know, Rob, how did you go from 0 to 88 in 9 months? Can you can you dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, first we had to start from the very beginning. We didn't have a quality policy. We didn't have any kind of SOPs or work instructions or anything. And so it was a lot of writing, reviewing, training, and then getting the people into the habit of seeing quality as something that they live with and can have an impact on every day. And so it was a small company, 25. I would say about 10 to 15 of those were temps. And so we were constantly having to update and train and do audits, and so it was a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights for about 9 months.
Well, that's pretty incredible to make that kind of change like that. The amount of documentation and training to get there is massive.
It was, and this was, pre 2015, so you had to really be detailed, and it was a nice big thick book.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, and what a fascinating story that you're so intrigued and just so impacted by IMEC and the Illinois MEP that you're like, man, I might as well join the team. And so that's just what a credit. And so, and what I love here, guys, what we're hearing is, like two totally different backgrounds, two totally different walks of life, a legal career, an operation career, and you both, find your way towards the MEP. Jennifer, let's come. I'm going to come back to you. So now you're director of the Tennessee MEP for a number of years. Then you actually work for National. For folks that are new, that's NIST, the National MEP Network itself. But as you were digging in, so you shared like, hey, I interviewed, our team and really dug in. Say when you got a couple of years under your belt, what were some of the exciting things? A lot of manufacturing is going on in Tennessee. What were some of the exciting things during your tenure as director of the Tennessee MEP?
Oh goodness, there were so many things. We had a really great chance to expand how we worked. We had 9 folks in the field, right? We covered the entire state. People don't realize how large the state is, and it's almost like 3 different states. If you go west of Nashville, you're not the University of Tennessee. You are the Tennessee MEP. If you go east of Nashville, then you're University of Tennessee Center for Industrial Services, because they love the University of Tennessee, right? I mean, 2 different time zones too. So it was, and we really connecting us to the economic development community was something we hadn't done. So one of the few things I said coming in, and we use this at Manufacturers Edge as well, and Rob and IMEC do a great job, is partnering and collaborating. So really that's what I do now at Manufacturers Edge, is the Vice President of Programs and Partnerships. So where Rob's with the client-facing folks and doing the work, and then in the projects, mine is more on the building of the network in the state. So I did that in Tennessee, and now doing that in Colorado is like, how do we work with the industrial associations? How do we work with the economic developers? How do we work with the banks and the lawyers and the accountants? Because as you know, if a business is going to having trouble or needs help or is growing, they're talking to their accountants, their banks. Their lawyers, their construction folks. So that's been a focus. That was my focus in Tennessee. We actually had a bank hire us to do a manufacturing 101 for their top tier bankers. And we did that for First Tennessee Bank. And now we're looking in Colorado to say, okay, how do we work? And we're being very intentional with our partnerships. And I think that's really a big deal for all of the MEP centers, is making those connections both with your state government. And we hadn't in Colorado, we've never gotten state money before. So part of the reason, we hired Glenn Flagans as our CEO, and we got to interview the CEO candidates, and we made it very clear we need somebody that can bring us to the table with the state of Colorado. In Tennessee, it was different because we were a university-based MEP center. So sometimes you didn't really have to worry about the financials, but it can be a detriment to the way the team works, because the money's going to be there. The university is going to provide it. Whereas if you're a standalone nonprofit like IMEC or Colorado MEP, you gotta hustle. You don't eat if you don't hunt. I mean, you just have to, and that's where Rob's team plays that. Mine is just to go out and find those grants that can help us build out our portfolio of services, the places where we're not to assist us with the small manufacturers.
Okay, I love that. So let's. All right, man, we've got so much to unpack. Jennifer, I'm going to come back to you because I want to talk to you more about your experience at NEST because you got to see really the whole umbrella, right? Like you saw the whole network. I want to dig in our mutual friend, Carol Thomas. I'm dying to talk to you about that. Rob, I'm going to come back to you. So when you started IMEC, okay, you private sector guy, manufacturing guy. Now you also, did I see this right? You were the deputy secretary of the Department of Transportation. Did I see that correct?
You did. Yeah. I spent 12 years in state government prior to kind of leaving the DOT and then moving over, did some private consulting and some teaching and eventually went to work for my friend who owned the business.
Nice. Okay.
Wow.
So with that wealth of experience that you brought into to IMEC and to the MEP network, describe like your first few days, like kind of like getting in, just the excitement and just like what was going on from your perspective, the MEP, and like what was that transition like?
Well, it was funny. Jennifer mentioned earlier that the recompete happened in about 2014, and that's when I joined IMEC. Okay. And we were part of the first wave of organizations that went through that recompete. So for those who don't know, recompete, the federal government says, hey, you can have a contract for 5 years with a 5-year renewal, but at the end of that 10 years, you got to put it back out for bid and let somebody else have a chance if they want to compete against your center. And so we had to create that recompete. I helped Dave Boulay, edit some of the things that he wrote because I'd been in state government and recognized the connections between economic development and private sector and how we could help with that. And so I one of the things we had in our interview process at IMEC, we had to take a quiz, and it had 25 different acronyms of things that I now know well, like DMAIC and ISO and PSYOP, and so many different things. I had no idea what any of them were. I had done quality, but really, that was about it. I was not a quality person before doing the quality program for our company. And so it really opened my eyes into what I needed to do. I begged our staff to give me as many books or recommendations on books to read about operations and lean and everything else to really dig into it. But I had some great mentors, people who had been with IMEC for 15 plus years. They took me under their wings. We did a lot of job shadowing and how to sell and all of that stuff. So I really give credit to the people who were my mentors, who then I had the pleasure of getting to manage later on, and just top-notch people, Mike Waite and many others, Ed Huey in Illinois. So really, really happy to have that experience.
Cool.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure hard to leave, but it was very exciting that, we had a nice discussion. Gosh, Rob, do you remember the hotel, Damon, that we stayed at in Chicago was like old school Chicago, right downtown. I think it was right across the street from the Tribune.
It was.
Yeah. Right. And the pool, like the city lore was like, it was Al Capone used to hang out there. There was like, right, Rob, like there was like a little escape door that like Al Capone, but like Rob and I were in the workout gym together and we were checking out that pool. And I'm telling you, wasn't it magnificent?
Marble everywhere. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Amazing.
It was like it was like a Roman pool, and then you could just picture like Al Capone
having a drink,
popping on a cigar, and just running from the cops. Anyway, I digressed. I had to share that real quick. So awesome. Jennifer, let's come back to you. I love that you've had multiple different hats. Just again bringing your wealth of experience, passion to the MEP network. Talk about like what was the transition from you going from a director, which must have been like very wonderful opportunity. What called you to come look at things from a national network level, and what did you see? Like, how did you see things differently from that position?
Interesting. I think from the transition out was really I'd grown as much as I could really grow in that role. Again, it's just the status of the organization. Like you're in a university based with a specific kind of budget, and you were down levels rather than the flexibility you have in a nonprofit organization to manage and to grow. Yeah. And so, we had gotten the MEP program. Tennessee MEP was at a place where it made sense to hand off the reins to someone else. who could, run the organization the way the university wanted it to be run.
Yep.
And we were solidly in the first 5 years. I left in 2019, so it was 6 years. And so then I made the call up to Carol Thomas and said, I said, Carol, I don't want to leave the network, but I don't know what to do next, right? And actually, I've had several jobs like that where I've been like, I don't really know what I'm going to do next. Okay. And I said, we really need someone, a body on the national network, and we don't have anyone. No one represents the network. NIST represents NIST, the centers represent themselves, and we'd work together. But at the end of the day, you still have NIST, NIST has their own metrics, and the centers have their own metrics, and they have their own stakeholders. And interestingly, someone had said, the MEP centers have their own, NIST is only one part of their network. So Manufacturers Edge has the state agencies we need to talk to and our partners, and then NIST is one part of that. But for NIST the centers are their network. So how do we connect these pieces? And Carol said, I agree with you. We don't really have, ASMC is our lobbying arm. So we have different pieces, but we didn't have anyone to do that. And so we had started the center leadership team. I was serving on the center leadership team at the time. And Tom Bugnitz, who was Manufacturers Edge CEO, said, you know what, we do need somebody to do that. And so they put a contract for me to go and contractually have an office at NIST and to bring the centers back into NIST. So it became, again, less of a parents giving you money, teenagers take the money and run, which is what my analogy I used for the network before was, you give us money, we take our money, we do, and we report to you when we have to. Otherwise, we want you to set up our way. And how do we make that more of a collaborative? And I learned more about NIST. There's so many resources there, and we're starting to pull them out. But I went to campus, once a month, and I had never been to see all of the things that can go on there. And they have a great cafeteria, just for the record.
Just saying.
Just saying, if you go to there. But they have a nuclear facility there. I mean, they have a zero emission. They have a house that's completely renewable. They do the Christmas trees. They do the testing to say how long a tree how fast it'll go up in flames if you don't cover it, which I showed my husband at Christmas. Like, hey, this is what can happen. But people pull those things out to the network, and so we formed regional nodes, and those still meet. So the Mountain West Regional Node meets every other Tuesday, and we get together, and they're great. I mean, it's New Mexico, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Texas, Alaska is with us, and Utah, and we get together every other Tuesday, and we talk about what's happening in the region, what's happening in our centers, and we share practices, and that's what we wanted out of the network. So what I saw was everybody wanted it. We just didn't know how to do it.
Can I add to that one other thing?
Yes, please.
When I started at IMEC, I felt like we had to find all of the people ourselves that were going to do the work, right? We wanted to have internal Illinois outside contractors. We wanted to have all the expertise on our staff. And we had a larger budget than Manufacturers Edge, and so we could do some of that. What I started to learn in going to the Center for Best Practices conferences, which started, around 2015, 2016, I want to say, was that there's a huge network of expertise across the MEP. And we've taken the initiative here in Colorado to say, we're going to use that expertise. And we've probably used experts from 5 or 6 centers for work here in Colorado, because we recognize that's where we need to go first to help our manufacturers, because they not only know the system, the network, and the passion, as you mentioned earlier, Kurt, they have around manufacturing, but there's just some incredible experts who have done amazing things in manufacturing that we should go to first. And then, we start looking for other kind of outside contractors locally. But it's just a pleasure to be able to say, I reach out to anybody in the network, and they're going to respond with an answer that's meaningful and valuable for our clients.
Right. Well, I absolutely love that. And so shamelessly, Damon and I, so firsthand, we did live streams from the Alaska MEP just a month ago. And then, Rob, you're going to love this. Then 2 weeks later, I was doing live streams in Chicago with our IMEC clients. And just, I couldn't agree with you more. And what's great is just seeing all the resources. Again, I think there's 1,300 strong, of experts that work at the MEP on a national level. And so, like you mentioned, Jennifer, like, hey, if we need an expert in such and such, we have some friends here from Wisconsin here today, like, hey, we've got somebody in Dairy. Let's get our friends at the Wisconsin MEP. Or, hey, there's an expert in New York that's doing this, or someone in Utah that's doing that. So you have this, deep bench of subject matter experts, plus your third-party resources. So I love that. Jennifer, real quick, do you want to share? You had a funny story about COVID.
If there's anything funny coming out of COVID.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Let me complete my sense there.
Totally
COVID certainly was not funny, but you happened to be on spring break when you were trying to solve things out, when the world was shutting down. And what did that day look like for you?
You can talk to Carol Thomas about this as well.
I'm talking to her tomorrow. I'm going to ask her about
that. In fact, I believe at one point Carol messaged me and said, "You're killing me, Jen. You're killing me here." So we were navigating an entirely new situation that everyone was.
Yeah.
However, what we were doing was we were being called on by the White House, like literally called on by the White House to say, where can we find these things? Who makes masks? Who makes hand sanitizer? Who makes ventilators? Where are the plans? And Carol was getting these calls and was having to respond literally 24 hours a day. And I was on the beach with my children. They are 7 and 11 now. They would have been 4 and 8 at the time. And we had gone to the beach because I had been traveling so much. I hadn't seen them much. So I told my husband, you stay home, I'll take the kids and we'll go for spring break, just the 3 of us with a girlfriend of mine and her kid. And I get there and the world begins to shut down. And I am on my laptop on the beach or on my cell phone literally all the time. As long as I could see them, they didn't drown. We were good, right? Like they didn't know what was happening. And we were hearing all these things like toilet paper shortages and all of these things were happening. And I literally was like in my bathing suit on a conference call with, MEPs from all over the country trying to figure this stuff out. And Carol was like, I need a list. Give me a list of who makes what in what state. And we were literally putting together Excel spreadsheets.
Wow.
We've come further now since then.
Yeah.
We were also told at the time by the federal government, we weren't allowed to say pandemic. We weren't allowed to say a lot of words in anything in writing. So everything had to be on the phone, right? So we weren't emailing everybody. We were having reached calls with directors from around the country. And Colorado did a great job because they got themselves together, and like Ohio did a great job. There were states that were examples. And then there were states who just didn't know what to do. And it showed us the lack of connection. But had I known that I was going to spend the next 445 days with both of my children in the house all the time, I don't know that I would have spent spring break by myself.
Yeah.
And that's a whole separate story. But and I want to back up a second, Jennifer.
Yeah,
when really cool. When you shared leaving, you realized that there was an opportunity for maybe like new direction, or like, you've taken this as far as I can as a director of Tennessee. I wanted to back up a couple of notes that I jotted down as you were talking. 2 words that come to mind: humility and inspiration. What amazing humility for you to say, you know what, I think I'm good. I've taken this as far as I want to go. I've accomplished what I want to accomplish. And here's somebody, went to law school, wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, high aspirations, very ambitious. And you decide, hey, I'm going to call a timeout here or an audible, and I'm going to make a different path in my career. Talk to Carol Thomas. And for anybody wondering, that's the previous director, of the entire NIST MEP. But what an inspiration, because so many people can just get very complacent. I'm just going to, I'm doing my gig. I'm doing my jam. I'm having a good time. I'm the top dog. Why should I change? And so I just want to share with you how much I admire and how inspiring that is, that you had the humility to make that career change. And so, hey, let's give her a little applaud, Damon. How about a little applause for Jennifer right there? I love that. So,
I think it's something that a lot of us, it's a learned thing, right? It wasn't easy.
It wasn't
easy to admit to myself that I had done all I could do, and that I really they would be better off, and I would be better off doing something different. That's not because I built something and I didn't want to walk away from it, but I also knew that it didn't make sense for me to say.
That's a sign of a great leader, because it's very hard to say, like, somebody else could do this not better, but it's time to hand off the baton. And again, like, you're young when you're young now, you're young then, you're like, it wasn't like, I'm going to write this out for the next X number of years and just, this is my last job. This may, I'm going to ride this into, the sunset. Like, so I really love that man, you are an inspiration.
Well, let me add this, like Rob interviewed at Manufacturer's Edge for a regional director position. And I called him and said, no. We had a director level position open up. And I was like, we need there, right? And now we're peers. Right. And the beauty of that is we do the 6 Working Geniuses. I don't know if you've done that yet, but I highly recommend the 6 Working Geniuses assessment by Patrick Lencioni, who did the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And we've just recently done it for our whole organization. And to me, culture is so huge, and joy in your work. And I think Rob and I have a lot of, because we know our geniuses are different, but we have one overlapping, we can be complementary of each other and do things that we really brings us joy and in work every day. And they're different.
Yep.
Very cool.
All right, this is fun. All right, man, this is a good one. We're competing with our last episode, Damon, and so I think we won't call out anybody, but this is a really good one, right? Rob, let's go into, so folks that are new to the MEP network, let's talk about some of the menu items you mentioned earlier, like ISO. We've thrown out some of these acronyms, continuous improvement. Just share a little bit about, like, what are some of the things a manufacturer knocks on your door? What can they expect of working with an MEP, or more specifically, Manufacturer's Edge?
Yeah, MEP has literally, I think Jennifer said this earlier, you bring something to us, we're going to find an answer for it. Right. And that's sometimes overwhelming to a client. It's like, I don't even know where to start with that, right? And so what we've done is really broke it up into 6 pillars of good business for a manufacturer. And so we think about it as leading your company, and all the services that might go into that, leadership training to how would you be better in governance for your board and how you run your company, strategy, how you think about the future, your future plans for your company. We think about it from focusing on people, which is all that workforce training, development, but it's also capability, capacity, HR policies, all of that stuff. We think about it as growing your company, which is a lot of what you do. I know Damon and Kurt, that marketing and SEO and how you're planning to really serve your customers well. And then we think about it from the improving your operations, which is the lean, the safety, the quality, those systems. And then finally, we put in what we call deciding with data. And deciding with data goes from an ERP system, how you use data to help improve your operations, all the way to the 9 kind of pillars of advanced manufacturing that are, Industry 4.0 and all of that. So those 6 pillars really help us refine what a client is talking through, or what are they saying as their needs. And we use a business health assessment, which is we have 2 versions, a 46 question version for larger companies, or about a 25 question version for smaller companies, that funnels those 6 pillars down into actual things that we can then take as needs and recommendations to move forward. And so I know many centers use different types of assessments. That's the one that we've chosen, we've developed, and it helps us as we go through our discovery process to really dig deep. And we ask the full leadership team of that organization to take that assessment, and we have the whole leadership team there as we do our readout. So it's not just, 6 people took this and we don't think we agree. No, we're going to have a conversation when there's a gap of, it's a Likert scale 1 to 5. If there's a gap of 3 or 4 across the team, somebody says it's a 1 and somebody says it's a 5, that's where we're digging in. right? Or we're going to dig in when everybody says it's a 5, we're going to say, oh, congratulations, but have you thought about this? And so we use that as our guide to help dig into what the sort of collective wisdom is of that leadership team to find where we can help and make them even better.
Yeah, this is so powerful. And again, 75% of all manufacturers nationwide are 20 employees or less. And, whether you're rural area, urban area, suburban, wherever you might find, so most manufacturers are small business owners. And Damon, firsthand, all day, like, hey, from 9 to 10, I need to be my own HR guy. And then, I need to do operations. Then I need to do a little bit of marketing. Oh, I better do some finance. So like you're throwing on a different hat all day. Yeah. It's just virtually impossible to be your own expert on every subject. So it's just such a wonderful resource to have a trusted guide and the trusted consultants of the MEP network to lean on. And that's what they're there for, to give that objective advice. You have your skin in the game is purely their success.
It is. Yeah. It is. Absolutely. We want them to get better because that helps our state get better. It helps people find jobs. It helps people stay in jobs and feed their families and take care of their life. And that's what manufacturers want to do. They want to make really cool projects, and they want to take care of their people. That's really it.
Right. Yeah. And when you think about, and Damon, you getting chills, like when you just think about, like, there's it's a calling, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even like, it's a job, like it's a calling. And again, like you have communities that might have like, one manufacturer, like, everybody works at that manufacturer. And it's like, kids are playing little league or like dance recitals, like you're providing jobs, you're providing livelihoods. They can go on that family vacation, that beach vacation, right, Jennifer? And so the thing is, like, what that entrepreneur, what that manufacturer is, like, there's so much more going on. Jennifer, let's go here for a little bit. We're hearing a lot about like reshoring and like COVID, or during COVID, there was like, we're hearing like a little bit of a renaissance in manufacturing. What are you hearing, kind of boots in the street, as far as like, more made in USA, or like, what are you hearing going on?
Yes. I think we're hearing there's a desire for that. I think the challenge we've had and we still have is, to your point, when 75% are small. In Colorado, 85% of our manufacturers have less than 20 employees.
Is it 85? Yeah.
So we also, though, have one of the largest aerospace sectors in the country.
Yep.
So we have more aerospace workers per capita than every other state. So how do we put those two things together? Where are those suppliers? How deep is the knowledge of those supply chains? And even if we wanted to onshore, Rob and I were sitting in a meeting, and I texted him because we had to make this presentation, and it's something we thought, but we hadn't seen the numbers. And he said, if you had every able-bodied human in this country work, you still can't fill the gap. Still can't fill the workforce gap. And I went, okay, like we knew that, but now what, right? So automation, right? Like digitization, like, and back to your point, not to interrupt, but back to your point about these small businesses, when I look back and reflect, I have helped a lot of my friends and people that I've known start their own businesses at my kitchen table because they didn't know how to run a business. Right. They knew how to make pie. They knew how to bake bread. They knew how to find really good cheeses. And in fact, she built a business where she could, and then distribute those cheeses to restaurants. But she didn't know she needed an LLC, and she needed insurance, and she needed an accountant, and that's what we do for manufacturers. And I think the idea of onshoring is great, but where do you start? Okay. And with a system that has been built on cheap labor, cheap products, right? Just in time, and we had a situation during COVID, and in fact, it lagged for the last year and a half. I mean, I don't know if we still do, but there were a couple of companies that had 52-week lead times on things that they had to have to put product out. And, had you told me in 2019 that I should invest in hand sanitizer companies, I would have told you were crazy. And if you told me in 2019 that model train companies would be hugely profitable in 2020, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, workforce automation, there are things we have to do here at home right now. And in Colorado, we're going to be mapping the aerospace supply chain.
Yeah.
And so we'll be going from top down and bottom up. We
Yep.
know that,
Wow.
Lockheed and Boeing aren't necessarily going to hand us a list of their suppliers, but we know also that there are machine shops all over the state that are supplying into that supply chain. They may not even know they're there.
Right.
They may not know they're so far down that line. So we also have an issue with cyber. I mean, and it's a risk and it's a business continuity issue. And what we're trying to do is get away from the word cyber, because I believe it's coming. CMMC is going to be required. You won't be able to self-attest anymore. And I think our small manufacturers aren't going to be ready for that unless we get them ready for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Those are critical topics. Damon, what do you got?
No, I think this is great. And because you're right, as you said, you just don't know what you don't know. And these small business owners and leaders, you can't know everything. And they oftentimes don't even know about the MEP. So your outreach work with the economic development and everyone else is critical, because honestly, I grew up in manufacturing. I was running companies in manufacturing for the vast majority of my career, and I did not know about the MEP until after I was out of manufacturing. In the companies.
Yeah.
And that goes back to, we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get the same results. And
yeah, exactly.
so that's why, back to Kurt, when you say it's not a logical progression for Rob and I both, yes, I've worked with manufacturers, he's worked in manufacturing.
Yeah.
However, our backgrounds are not typical of that.
Yeah.
Because you need someone who can speak of these other partners and collaborators who come to the table.
And what's fascinating when we have Rob, so we have a lot of IMEC manufacturers come on our show, and folks from previous colleagues of yours, and we consistently hear not only from the manufacturers how grateful and how thankful and what a game changer the MEP network is for them, but even your colleagues that are now at the MEP on your team, they've even said it. Damon, we've had multiple guys I'm at the MEP. Thank goodness I'm at the MEP. Yeah. I wish I would have known about the MEP when I was at a manufacturer, right? And it's for sure. Common. So okay, I know, man, I could talk with you guys all day, and I'm really disappointed because I have 10 more questions, but I'm
just getting going too.
I won't keep you guys that long. Rob, do you want to? We were talking a little bit about your supply chain solutions, sustainment. Do you want to go there? Do you want to touch on that for a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, we based on Jennifer's knowledge of what she saw during COVID and the lack of supply chain capability and capacity, she really drove our organization to look forward at that and identified an organization called Sustainment that is really working very hard at mapping the supply chain for. It started out for the Air Force to find machine shops to help do work for the Air Force where they needed, quick turn on replacement parts. And now it's growing quickly to map supply chains in multiple industries. But Sustainment is a free platform for those who provide services to put their information up, and we actually have worked with them to help develop a verification process. And so a company that wants to be a supplier to any kind of organization can have us come out and take a walk through and just basically give them a thumbs up that says, yeah, you look good, and they get a badge on Sustainment to be able to show that a third party has looked at their organization. But we not only saw that as an opportunity to connect the manufacturers as free manufacturing resources, but to connect the buyers. And that's where Sustainment is really powerful. You can actually use their platform to put out a project that you want to have suppliers bid on. It is a FedRAMP, so cyber protected system that is useful to any manufacturer. It is a paid service, so if you're going to actually ask for a buying project, you will have to pay a little bit, but it's very reasonable in comparison to other services. And then we also saw it as a place then to start connecting the resources that are open to manufacturers around the state and eventually around the country things like the economic development agencies or the workforce agencies or universities that often have, or community colleges that often have manufacturing programs. And so we're putting all of those onto sustainment as well for the state of Colorado. So we almost see it as that one door into not only who your suppliers can be, but also into who the resources are, from workforce to grants to cyber to anything else, on that one location. And Jennifer has been really powerful in making a connection to other centers, MEP centers for sustainment. And so I'll let her talk a little bit about how we're using that Colorado manufacturing network in a much larger sense as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Rob. I mean, it's our vision is a hyper-connected, resilient manufacturing network in the state of Colorado and beyond, right? And so supply chains don't care about those state lines and boundaries. So MEP said we need a database of suppliers. We need to map the ecosystem, and they said just go do it, and they didn't tell us how we had to do it. So what we proposed was we're going to do the Colorado Manufacturing Network. We're going to connect these companies, as he said. We're also going to identify the resources, but we're bringing an army of the willing. And what I mean by that is there are all kinds of options you could do. A database is going to be obsolete the minute it's launched. Sustainment is not unlike a VRBO or an Airbnb. You can say, I want to be close to the beach, and I need this kind of processing. I want this kind of sector. I need these certifications. And at no cost to the MEP Center, sustainment doesn't cost us anything. And so we can use that and be the face of that in our state. And so right now we have, I believe, 12 MEP centers that have committed to working with sustainment. And sustainment, because they were a startup and we got in with them about 1.5 years ago or more, they've been very open to our feedback on what MEP centers need to see. And we need to be able to see who connects to who. We need to be able to use this platform, and we've expanded how they thought about it a lot, because we said, there's these opportunities here for us to do all of these other things. And then we have 6 other MEP centers that are currently considering sustainment, and there's no cost to them. So really, there's not a risk, because sustainment's also going to be out there doing this work anyway. So if you as an MEP center don't want to work with sustainment, that's fine. They're still going to be mapping manufacturers in your state. For us, it was let's take the lead. And so we are establishing a community site on sustainment for MEP centers that everyone in the country can have access to, all 51 MEPs. Because my goal, again, is to do more with less, connecting and collaborating. And if we can't connect to each other, how can we connect our supply chains? Right. I mean, it's to me, it doesn't seem like it should be that difficult. Right. So we've set up a working group, and we're putting together at the Best Practices Conference, TMAC, Rodney Reddick from TMAC and I. If you haven't talked to Rodney here, you should get Rodney on this.
I've met Rodney. Rodney's, he's I know Rodney.
Awesome. He's amazing. So Rodney and I are presenting at the Center Best Practices Conference on a manufacturing network playbook. Here's what, if you want to launch a manufacturing network in your state, here's the way to do it. Here's the marketing materials. Here's the things you need. And the Mountain West is looking at doing marketing together. So we've now got, Wyoming and Montana and Colorado and Texas all on sustainment. So let's get together and let's market the supply chain opportunities across the Mountain West, rather than just sticking in our own states doing it in silos.
Yeah.
Well, so many. Yeah. Rob, so many mic drops right there, right? So Army of the Willing, and and the cool thing is that was a great segue, Jennifer, because the gentleman, I had the honor and privilege of meeting the gentleman that founded Sustainment, Damon, and veterans, they're heroes and just relentless entrepreneurs, very aggressive. And again, what's the common theme? Passionate about helping manufacturers. And just, it's just so cool watching, entrepreneurs, there's a problem in the market. Let's come up with our own solution. Yep. And that's how, it's just a great story over and over. I know we're at time. And Jennifer, I'm going to ask 2 last questions. Jennifer, women in manufacturing, little girl, want to be Supreme Court justice. How about for, I have a teenage daughter. Damon has a young daughter, 20s, 30s. For young women out there that are launching their career, going out there, why are all the cool kids looking at manufacturing? And if they're not, why should they?
If they're not, they should, because it is the stigma of dark, dirty, and dangerous still is out there. And we would be completely dishonest if we said there aren't still places in the country where that still holds true.
Yep.
Right. I think the difference we've seen is there's pathways that offer a lot of interest. And Rob took a trip to Germany with America Works.
Oh, did you go? Okay.
Yeah, wow. We came back with all kinds of ideas. And, we're at Manufacturer's Edge not going to play in K-12. I mean, we're going to partner with K-12, but we're not going to be physically out recruiting students. Yeah. But really, we are working with those educators and those community members to understand all of these different ways that you can engage in making things. If you don't talk about it as manufacturing, but as making things, my kids, like, what do you do, Mom? You sit on meetings. That's what they think I do. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, I do. But the clothes you're wearing, the shoes you're wearing, the food you're eating, all of these things were made somewhere by someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a maker space, that maker mentality, I think the younger generations are there and seeing that they can have a lot more ownership of their own career. And it doesn't have to be a ladder. It can be a jungle gym. And manufacturing might fit within that. And Rob, I'm sure you have something on this because you took that trip. And you're muted, which means you win.
I'm on the bingo card. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, the trip was amazing. We got to see 8 different companies, from a small 100-year-old family-owned business to a large business like Siemens, who were building career pathways, training programs for kids as young as 6th grade to help find their ways into manufacturing. And what I thought was so amazing is most of the work that they're doing, not all of it, but a lot of it is built around digitization. It's around bringing virtual reality and amazing new training programs. And we took a walk through one facility where they were getting ready to build out the office space, and they had a system that basically built out the office space for them as they walked through. I mean, it was just incredible resources, and that's all in manufacturing. Right? You can do literally anything you want. If it's from marketing to computers to robotics to rocketry. We went to a rocket manufacturer recently that are building 3D printed rockets, right? I mean, it's just anything that you want to do, manufacturing has it for you.
Well, all right, Rob, well said. I love that answer. Appreciate it. Let's close it out. Jennifer, parting thoughts, words of wisdom, anything, what you're super excited about in manufacturing and at the MEP network moving forward. What are your last words of wisdom for us?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I'm excited about, we're in year 9 of our 10-year cooperative agreement. So we get a chance over the next year to really think about our business and on how we serve companies. And we've been doing that for a while. Yeah. And shore up all of those pieces. So it's really exciting time to be working in the MEP centers because we're about to see a whole nother group of MEPs, Colorado, Tennessee, Illinois, North Carolina, Texas. They're all going to be recompeting for their programs. I personally like to win, and I like to win when no one's competing with me. So I would prefer that. But, that's really what we're focused on for the next year, and mapping the ecosystem, because we are going to do this in Colorado and hopefully across the country.
Well, I love it. And hey, before we wind down, Jennifer, what's the 3? I think I heard something in the background. Your 3 friends in the room that are. What are the names of your 3 friends?
Oh, I have Mr. Teddy Pants and George is snoring. So I apologize.
Well, hey, George, you made the program. Just Rob, how about I'm coming?
That's awesome.
I'm coming at you. Damon, we should have brought the dog. We should have, we'll have a dog show. Jennifer, next time you come on, we're going to have a little dog program.
Yeah, we should bring him. I have one other one. He's somewhere, but yeah. And the cats, I'm surprised the cats haven't joined us.
Damon's got like little Olden. I've got like 130-pound Rottweiler here somewhere in the house. So Rob, how about, dude, I can't thank you guys enough. I could talk to you guys all day. Rob, parting thoughts, words of wisdom. What are you excited about in manufacturing, MEP network moving forward?
I think for me, the great excitement is to see how we can impact the small manufacturer in the future. We're working really hard to identify some resources for small manufacturers. And in fact, we just announced the Small Manufacturing Recovery Grants Program. So companies here in Colorado can take advantage of that, and we've got plans for even more of those. We want to make sure that small manufacturers are growing, that they have all the resources that they need, and we want to help the bigger ones too, but those small ones are, as you guys mentioned earlier, are so important to the everyday economy of every state in the nation. And so I think it's important for us to put that emphasis on them, and that's where we're going to be growing our resources for them over the next 18 months.
Absolutely.
So awesome.
Damon, dude, I told you this was going to be a good one.
Any
parting thoughts on your end?
Every time we talk to a different MEP, you guys in Colorado, I love Colorado. I grew up in South Dakota. Got family that lives outside of Colorado and outside of Denver. And you guys in Colorado, the Denver area, for people that aren't familiar with it, it is an aerospace hub. It is a hub for a large region, and you guys have so much there, and just happy to hear what you guys are doing with the MEP. And as I think about this, and I think about all the manufacturers in Colorado and the manufacturers across the United States, these MEPs are doing so much every single day that they just need to reach out and start talking to them, because as we talked a while back, you don't know everything, and there's so many experts in the network.
Yeah. And I think the big thing for entrepreneurs, and man, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. It gets a little stressful here and there, right, Rob? Just a little bit.
Wow.
It does.
The big thing with the program here is our tagline is, hey, let's stop being the best kept secret. And reach out to your local MEP. Find those economic developers. There's almost like that little bit of a mental, I don't know government funding. I don't know what's going on there. I don't, man, just ask. The answer is always no. I was with my sister this weekend. She's like, the answer is always no unless you ask. So, reach out to Manufacturer's Edge, reach out to your local MEP, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your colleagues, Jessica, Beth, Dana. So Glenn and Jessica, Jessica and Glenn are on the program at the end of July. So we've got more Manufacturer's Edge coming back at the end of the month. But boy, if you've been sitting down for this past hour or so, I encourage you to stand up and let's give a big round of applause for Jennifer and my dear buddy Rob. And just we salute you, we thank you, we applaud you, we commend you. Thank you for the work that you're doing for manufacturers. Just they are the heartbeat of our economy, and what you guys are doing supporting, we just really appreciate the work that you're doing. So guys, we're going to wind down. Thank you for everybody joining us. Boy, if you're catching this on replay, you want to catch the whole thing, reach out to Rob on LinkedIn. Connect with Jennifer. Jennifer, you put out great posts on LinkedIn. So you want to definitely connect with these two. Check out the Manufacturer's Edge website. They have all sorts of fun resources, information. As Rob just mentioned, they have a grant program. And if you're coming to us from another MEP, boy, reach out to your local MEP because they are here to help. So, Damon, man, are we lucky or what? Was this a great program?
Yes, we are, my friend.
We're going to close out. Rob and Jennifer, hang out with us for 1 second. We wish
Thanks, everyone.
Damon, how do we like to close out? Just be someone's inspiration, man. Just like these two, just Rob and Jennifer inspired us today. Go out and be someone's inspiration. God bless you, and we will talk to you on Friday. Thank you.